And out of fear of like, well, everyone around me didn't experience this. They won't understand. Nobody will understand me.
2 years ago, you could not have waterboarded this information out.
What changed? Welcome to Beyond the Scope, where we showcase the incredible humanity of healthcare workers and the lessons learned from challenges medical training doesn't really prepare you for, things beyond the scope of our practice. I'm your host, Andy, and today's episode is supported by Motivate MD. Your story is more than just a CV. Let their team help you tell it. Learn more at the link in the description and use code NDMD for 10% off any package. I'm pleased to welcome viewers and listeners to season 3 of Beyond the Scope. It's been a long time coming since I moved to Residency, and I'm so thrilled to be able to bring on incredible new guests, catch up with some old friends over the course of these next few episodes. So let's kick things off today and potentially open up some recent wounds with the hope to heal with more than fluffs and a few tegaderms. Today's guest is a full-time ENT surgeon, but in true surgery fashion, just couldn't stop there. Her strong advocacy for physician and particularly residency wellness has driven her to be the heart of the podcast, Promising Young Surgeon and Surgeon Interrupted. She is a Dr. Lorna Breen Heroes Foundation ambassador, talented writer, curator of the Rethinking Residency platform, encouraging physicians to train in training to win back a positive and balanced experience of residency, co-founder of the Hippocratic Collective, the creative powerhouse quite literally behind why this podcast is having a season 3, and overall badass. I'm pleased to welcome to the show Dr. Frances May Harden.
I'm very grateful to be here. I will say that I think that part of what I bring to the table is that I'm not coming from some ivory tower of like all of these accolades and extracurriculars and things like that. I would argue that with rethinking residency, part of the goal wasn't the quote unquote balanced physician life. The goal is to get out of training alive. Number one, that's how low we're going to put the bar. I know that that sounds extreme.
But it's real.
Exactly. Number one was get out of training alive, and number two was get out as unscathed as possible. And the more that I've done this work and connected with doctors, it's scary how much, even at the attending level, we see the deep wounds that are left behind after training.
Absolutely. And I think one of which we're going to address today, which I hope isn't too much of a sore spot, but it's an encouraging thing to know that there are many people out there that are probably in the same situation right now, either are scared of that impending situation or are maybe recovering from that recent wound right now. At the time of us filming this, this is near May time, so this is just a few weeks after match day. Thank you so much for sharing your story today and for being a wonderful way of kicking off season 3 of Beyond the Scope. It's a pleasure to bring this show back to life with Hippocratic Collective, and I'm so excited to be able to create more with the resources of the team and the creativity that you guys bring along.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for giving the people what they want. Like I've been watching ND MD Productions since easily 3.5 years ago is when I really came out of training myself and started rethinking residency and again, we're just giving the people what they want here.
I really appreciate it. It's been a long time coming. I was on Tyler's podcast as most recently as yesterday, and I had to say out loud I've been doing this for five years now, which is kind of insane to think about. That I've been on YouTube and just creating content, at least in this medium, for that long. So I'm proud that it's made so much progress and it's impacted so many people, and it's really, I hope, it's just the beginning. But let's go ahead and get into kind of meat and potatoes of the show, because this is something that very much medical training, there's no textbook, there's no lecture that is going to be able to teach you how to get through this. And as much as we could dive into the almost blatant challenges that medical training, the whole process gives us, I want to focus on the one that hits really home to a lot of medical students. There's this thing that evokes excitement, celebration, and progress to some. And to others, it's the source of crippling anxiety and some of the most cold sweat nightmares. What do you think we could be talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting sweaty just thinking about it, and I know that it's important for us to normalize really talking about honestly the match.
Yes. And all right, so if you could give like a one-liner, like maybe brief HPI of the match, how would you explain it?
Is like a draft system for industries not in medicine, but it is a way of algorithmically trying to sort out and match the individual, the trainee, the physician now with a program that will ideally educate, nurture, and support it for the next 3 to 7 years after medical school.
And the way I like to explain it to especially people not in medicine, I'm like, it's literally a like a dating app algorithm where one side ranks, I like this person, and this person in this order, and then the other side goes, well, I like this person, this order, and then you just get like chucked into a computer algorithm where like in theory there will be a good match, hence the name. And again, I emphasize in theory.
I love the dating app analogy because to me, there are, match.com types of things where people get matched up based on a lot more criteria than just how you ranked or how you chose that person. Because I think that that's so real. If we were going to look at outcomes from a dating perspective of, okay, I'm going to turn in a list to you, like you're God, you're the match system. I give you a list of 20 names. And they turn in likewise to you 20 names. I think that we would get no marriages out of this stuff, literally, because it's not based on any like deeper, authentic, objective values. It's just like, how are we going to rank each other? And by the way, take into the account that if I think that you'll rank me lower, I might rank you lower.
That's also true. And under the table, also that shouldn't be a thing. I digress. Um, but oh, obviously, the goal for everyone is to match the first time, even if it's not your first choice to at least have a job, right? But unfortunately, that just doesn't happen for everyone. And the general assumption is it feels like a death sentence to all your hours of hard work in medical school. And for every happy tiered envelope opening you see on social media that goes viral every single year, there's an equal and opposite reaction of someone receiving just devastating news that they didn't match. Dr. Francis May, as successful as you are now, and as much as I thoroughly enjoyed making your intro, maybe on paper didn't start out, so at least traditionally on track. Tell me, what was match day like for you?
Yeah, so I think that that's funny too when we talk about like a person being on track, quote unquote, because I would say that up until match day, I was on track. And so this was a very much it was a derailment. I would love to get into, the death sentence, as you called it. But I loved medical school. I had a very, I think, positive, extremely educational, strong medical school experience. I got honors on every rotation. I was AOA. I had a gap year of ENT outcomes research. And so that was even post grad before medical school. I did that year of research, had several ENT publications. And again, to kind of fill out the background of the story, I got 25 invites for residency interviews. I took 17 of those interviews and then ranked 16 spots. And so from even a numbers standpoint, and I know a lot of us are like very much numeric people, I love to look at the data and be like, "Oh, the data says statistically I should have matched." And the data was saying at the time, like statistically, your odds are extraordinary, as good as anyone's. So Monday morning, when we get the email, congratulations, you matched, or we're sorry to inform you that you did not match. I really don't even think I had it on my radar or had prepared emotionally to not match. So I was just sitting in my apartment and I was doing admin work. I was working at my desk when the email came through. And it was definitely a sentinel event in my life.
I mean, what were your initial reactions to it? I think there are a lot of probably questions that crossed your mind initially, but just walk us through what you felt during that moment.
Honestly, and this was 8 years ago now, so I don't think I even had any questions. It was mostly shock and dissociation, and a lot of doctors, like, certainly, I think in surgery, like, a natural coping mechanism is dissociation, and that's how I would describe it. I think just truly, almost like a mind-body separation, and the mind totally shut down.
How long did you stay in that?
At minimum, several days, if not weeks. I have lost immediate family members. I lost, several family members when I was younger. I just have my mom now, and it honestly yeah, thank you. I do think so, my dad passed away suddenly when I was 20. Again, lost other family members years before that, and so, like, I'm even a person who had encountered, like, unexpected loss of immediate family members, and the aftermath of it in my personal experience, was not that dissimilar. Like, usually, having experienced that multiple times, like, you lose time, can't really a lot of fuzzy memories surrounding the funeral, but also surrounding, like, that match week and having to reapply and soap and things like that. Kind of the same, I would say, emergency breaks that, like, any person has.
See. And what helped you finally to kind of like come back to earth?
I would say that, it's an extremely lonely experience. Any person who doesn't get the match outcome that they want, super lonely, super isolating, and that's in part because of the shame around it, like, people don't want to connect over that, that's not something any of us want for ourselves, so it's really hard to, like, be open and find connection over it. I did feel loved and supported by my friends and family. I had girlfriends from the medical school who came and sat Shiva with me that week. They were, very kind about it and private about it, of course. I was too embarrassed to leave my apartment for several days. So, I mean, they were literally bringing me food. But again, using this analogy of like the loss of a family member, it's like they were bringing me morning casseroles and we were in mourning.
I mean, so it is that significant of an event. And I think it's hard to grasp for a lot of people who are not in medicine and maybe are like, oh, I have a family member in here. It's just one day. How much could it mean? And I think that tells everyone that's exactly how much it means. It's as significant of a win or a loss as, oh, a family member. And I think I made a whole video about this on my channel as well, about why match day is kind of overrated, addressing a lot of the topics of like, it's a day where the person next to you is having the best day of their life, and this person next to you is getting ready to run and hide in a corner. And I do remember even on my match day, like trying to find one of my like close friends as she fell so far down her rank list and was just crying away from everyone. And then also getting the text of, "Hey man, I didn't match on that Monday." And to actually asking around, I was like, how did you guys feel? Like, what was your initial reactions? And a lot of it was self-questioning. Questions like, did I do enough? What more could I have done? I thought this program really liked me. What changed? And then, like, finally, penultimately, why me out of all people? Did you have any of those questions going through your mind during those few days?
Maybe to an extent in real time, but like I said, the memory is a little bit sketchy. And then number 2, I think that for me, they carried on for years. Like, that's what's brutal about it. You asked about how long it took to come back down to earth or maybe, like, grieve, process, and get over it. Took years to get to that point. I do think that I had a very typical surgeon's personality in that, like, I can kind of compartmentalize and squash anything down and, like, deny, and hide my shame for many years, which is what I did. And I think that those questions, like, for a long time, they kept me up at night and they haunted me. But interestingly, like, in my case specifically, as a person who didn't match on Monday and then soaked on Wednesday, I was much more in almost like this, I'm an airway surgeon, like emergency shutdown mode. I don't think that I really entertained like some of this, self-questioning because I was like, well, we have a pretty time sensitive task at hand. Complete that task, I can compartmentalize.
I see. So it's just like a, hey, let me get something needs to be done right now. I can worry about that later. focus on the task now. And I mean, that makes you absolutely an incredible clinician, but there are definitely moments where I do that, absolutely. And then I come out after the fact, I'm like, "Ooh, I really just, like, closed off everybody in my life for that period of time when they were, like, banging on the door trying to help me." So, we talked about actually before we started rolling how, like, medical personality and, like, the personalities that's trained into you sometimes bleed in to other areas of your life. Sounds like one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that even my ability to, like, authentically connect with people, it became limited by some of this compartmentalization because if ultimately I was lying to myself, like, "Okay, we just don't think about the match. We don't think about it. We don't talk about it." Technically, I still got a good outcome. Like, I got into an ENT program via the soap, and I just went on to training. So I think that because in my case specifically, it was almost protective that no one really knew what happened. Like the outcome was the same. The externally viewable outcome, other than a private circle who maybe like knew the ins and outs of what happened, the outcome was the same. But guess what? I'm a big believer in like our secrets make us sick. And so it wasn't until way later in my career, after residency training, of like opening up and just, I think, being very honest with myself about the process and being honest with others about the process, that I'm a better person for that. Because, like, truly, at the end of the day, I could have taken this to the grave. Just a handful of people would have known, not the world.
Mhm. I'm really thankful that you're able to share this story because there are a lot of people who are probably in that mind of, "I'm ready to take this to the grave." No one has to know. No one will know. And out of fear of like, well, everyone around me didn't experience this. They won't understand. Nobody will understand me.
2 years ago, you could not have waterboarded this information out of me.
What changed?
I am so grateful for this. I'm grateful for the change. And what was really formative is that as an attending, I decided I wanted to write a book. So I joined a writer's group. Um, that was very formative. I wrote the first full draft of my memoir. Unreadable. It was a book that wasn't filled with the truth. And I will tell you, that was my experience, but I wouldn't be surprised if like a lot of surgeons trying to do what I was trying to do would find similarly. Mm. All the lies that we tell ourselves about ourselves, they build up over the years of training. Like, we won't go into first drafts of the book, but they were like, I'm the best. I'm tough. Like, I'm very smart. Here are my accomplishments. Of course, all this. The match, the match experience was not even in the first draft of the memoir. It was like, okay, so we just like, blur out, fudge over some of those timelines. Now I'm an ENT resident, etc. And so
Mhm.
I think that looking at my life in that way and coming at it for the first time ever as an artist, it literally confronted me with something that I'm glad I grappled with because that's what like changed my whole life. And I truly think that without it, and a lot of us as physicians, certainly as surgeons, right? Like too compartmentalized to compensate. We have to tell ourselves a lot. I mean, there's a famous saying that like in surgery, you have to believe, to an extent, as a surgeon showing up, you have to believe that not only can you operate on this person and cure or save their life, but that you can do the best job at it. Fundamentally, because if you didn't believe that, then you should probably be setting up the patient with a different surgeon.
That makes sense. Hmm. So it was this like artistic confrontation with yourself that really brought everything full circle. Like how how can I speak to myself almost in third person and document this story? And maybe realizing that omitting this chapter doesn't tell the full story. And what a beautiful way that art comes in to helping us to process life.
Exactly, and I mean, the book even let's say where I get to more of that stage where I'm a better writer, I own all of my own shit, like, especially in the memoir like, the narrative nonfiction genre that I work in, a person who can't own all of their own shit, it's going to be pretty questionable art, I think. This even helped me to be able to have a little space and step back. Like, the better book, the better story, the better protagonist has to have some of these challenges.
Mm.
And I think that in medicine, I was never brought up in a way or taught that, like, the challenges make us better. I guess that I would say that the challenges make us better is just like, well, you've been up for 40 hours. And that challenge, being awake for 40 hours, that'll make you better. I don't feel like I was raised in this culture where people would say a huge career setback, such as not matching, that might make you better. Never heard that.
I think that's becoming more and more the reality now that people are seeing that, whenever a big, you know, event or kernel that happens in your life, like everyone is quick to question why. And particularly in residency, even as I traverse like near the end of my first year, is whenever those moments happen, is taking a step back and going like, what am I supposed to learn from this? And that I think that has been a mentality that's helped myself and has helped some of my co-residents, both within anesthesia and other specialties, a lot of which include surgery, because I very much am side by side in a lot of the struggles that they go through and hear a lot of what they have to go through. Um, I I think being able to share that mentality has served a comfort in helping us all like get through unscathed, at least a little bit less unscathed.
Of course, and I agree with you. I feel like I see that echoed in like the next generation and, like I think the next generation is smarter and better about it. Like we see terms like the growth mindset. Is this a rejection or is it a redirection? Like the resilience that young people are demonstrating and even what I see, it's extraordinary and they are able to do these reframes. I got that skill later in life. And that is why I almost died in my surgery training experience. I didn't have I came in extremely, extremely rigid. I would say in terms of background, kind of a typical first generation Asian experience in terms of, I mean, like A plus was A plus. And I did not have reframes for how a B plus could really be part of the journey towards a future A plus.
Believe me, I understand. Yeah, because it feels like not a, oh, you did your best. It was like, no, I fell short of my mark. Period. No other explanations. I'm not giving myself an excuse. You didn't do good enough.
Because your best should be the best. Like there wasn't even a separation between those two ideals. And I say that like lovingly and very grateful for the environment that made me. But like, yeah, those are not two different benchmarks.
Absolutely. And it's things that like I think I had to rewrite, especially near the end of medical school, where I was kind of in a similar boat of like, what am I doing? Like, if I continue this path, I don't know if I'm going to make it through residency. Um, and you have to make that decision of reframe it now, because if you reframe it later, you're going to have a lot more scars when you do it then.
I love like, different mantras in this vein are like, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And I would go a step further to say in medicine, for me, it genuinely came down to, do you want to try really hard, work really hard to be perfect, or do you want to live? And so I think that people see this in how I show up to these conversations. Like it became a fight for my life. And I came to that table saying, okay, I want to live. So what does that mean in terms of how that's going to look for me as a surgeon?
What that means is that was not a rejection, it was a redirection. And we'll talk more about like what are those different directions when you don't match in just a second. For right now, take a quick break. I know there's a lot of intense topics, maybe opening up some old sutures, but we'll take a quick break, hear a word from our sponsor, and then we'll be right back. We know from Frances May's story and so many other testimonies that not matching is not the end of your story. Whether you are looking to mitigate the chances of you not matching or strengthen your application to bounce back stronger than ever, I highly recommend Motivate MD to guide you through this equally exciting and terrifying time in medical training. Motivate MD is a medical school and residency application prep service made by actively practicing physicians for the future physicians, built on the sincere premise that your story deserves to be told in the best way possible. It's a breath of fresh air support system that prioritizes making sure that you are so much more than a test score or a line on your CV. Everyone has their unique experiences and lessons learned that brought them to the field of medicine, but oftentimes you need help to articulate the fine details in a way that will blow away any reader. With a diverse team of over 50 physicians representing over 15 different specialties across different medical schools around the country, the team of essay reviewers, CV editors, and mock interviewers are sure to help make medical schools and residency programs value what you bring to the table as an applicant and hone your story to shine in a specialty-specific setting. The team is personable and 24/7, with you being in direct contact with the core team for any lingering questions or concerns. And beyond the essays and on-paper application materials, this team has seen both sides of the admissions process and are most in touch with the emotions of the applicant because they are all actively practicing physicians or current medical students, something many other services cannot say. Everyone has a unique story. Motivate MD's team will help you to tell it. Visit the links in the description to learn more about their mission and best in industry pricing, and use code NDMD for 10% off any package. Best of luck to all those applying to medical school or the match, and looking forward to seeing all the celebrations of your success. Welcome back from the break. So we talked a lot about kind of everything leading up to the match, that decision, and all of a sudden, boom, the email comes through Monday and he didn't match. So where do we go from here? What are our options? And so what I have down, correct me if I'm wrong, I kind of have like three big ones, and we can explore each one. First off being the SOAP, which you kind of explained what that is and how that works. Two, a research year. And three, just leave medicine, period. So let's break down the pros and cons of each. Let's talk about the one that you went down, SOAP, first. So what even is the SOAP?
Yep. So it's the Supplemental Offer and Acceptance Program, I think is what it stands for as an acronym. But basically, what's interesting is because of this algorithm that we talked about, like the dating app, there are programs with unfilled spots. So this is almost like it's hard to not feel like when, especially when you're going through it, that this is like, I don't know, the scraps, like the unmatched applicants and unfilled program spots get matched up together. It's very interesting because of course people spend years putting together their residency applications. It's super thoughtful. I mean, even just from the date that ERAS opens to interviewing to match day, that's a long process. Soap is crazy.
They call it the scramble for a reason, right?
Yes, I think that like if we even break it down by hour, so let's say that it was 10 or 11 a.m. Monday, you get the email. I had my soap offer that I locked in by 3 p.m. Wednesday. So you have, let's say this is maybe about 50 hours or and change to look at all the open spots, call every person you know to try to help you, interview for those open spots. Like you get these quick phone interviews. And then what happens on Wednesday is that you log into a portal and there's a couple different rounds. And each round, every program just offers a spot to an applicant. You say yes or no, and you have to click yes or no. I think they gave us like 15 minutes. So this decision to like move across the country and totally uproot your life, like you have 15 minutes.
Just on the clock.
It was quite tense.
So the first interviews happen when? How long after the like 10 a.m. email?
Tuesday.
So you have like less than 24 hours, or about 24 hours, to basically get your life all together and like represent yourself to how many other like programs there are.
Right. And even separate from like get your life together, what you're talking about, kind of like package things nicely, show up as your best self for the interview. You had to stop crying long enough to be able to conduct a phone interview.
Yeah. I just I don't know how I could have done that. And do these programs understand that? Like, hey, this is not a great time.
Yeah, I mean, no, it would be hard. I think anyone would be hard pressed to show up as their best self in that type of a situation. I did feel like, honestly, I predated like Zoom a little bit. And so thankfully they were just phone conversations. Otherwise, people would have gotten like a look at quite puffy face, swollen eyes, like post crying, applicant. Um, I do think that what happened my year is that there were 11 unfilled ENT spots. So many of us all went into the scramble for that, and they were competitive programs. Northwestern in Chicago,
Or
Dartmouth, Mizzou, all 3 slots at University of Illinois, Chicago,
UIC.
were unfilled. UIC
Mm.
had 3 unfilled spots, and what's funny, this is more of like deep cut lore from the match 8 years ago, but allegedly UIC had like a newer department member who was supposed to submit the rank list, and that person did not do it. So all 3 spots went completely unmatched, and that propagated like domino effect through the algorithm because of course it's unheard of that 11 ENT spots would be open.
Right. So that happened off of a clerical error?
Yep, yep. And obviously, I mean, you can imagine in the years since, like I've come at this from every single angle. Was it just a clerical error? And like if UISV had gotten their rank list in, would I have matched somewhere at my 16 spots? I think you can just make yourself crazy worrying about that too much. And so part of like my reframe is that I'm just more interested in all the good that's come of it. And I'm more interested in outcomes, not like how the sausage is made.
Gotcha. And then also for soap too, from what I understand, you can go into any any unfilled specialty.
Yep.
I had a friend who did match anesthesia and then ended up filling like a general surgery spot because he was like, okay, it's fine. But he also was looking into internal medicine, and uh, emergency medicine spots.
Yeah, emergency medicine's definitely popular, and, like, honestly, even when I was back in application time, I liked a lot about EM. I liked a lot about a bunch of different specialties. So, like, had there been, let's say, no ENT spots and many EM spots, I could have seen myself scrambling into something like that. But I think that that's so interesting because I will tell you, it never was on the table to scramble into something like Gen Surge. And I think that, you know, that's an interesting thought because like I probably, especially now knowing myself better, I wouldn't say I have like a typical surgeon's personality or like that would be the best fit. And I just genuinely think like my backup scramble would have been EM.
I'm laughing because that makes all the sense in the world. Like any direct match subspecialty surgery is it's entirely different than general surgery. Like not many people know this on the channel, but a lot of people close to me know that I was applying orthopedics all the way up until like 2 months before ERAS I had like 3 aways lined up, withdrew all of them before like I went on a single one, did my sub-IN ortho, did like extra ortho rotations in my 4th year. And for a multitude of reasons, I did not go through with it and ended up switching. But like part of my internal monologue of, okay, so if you didn't match ortho, um, would you be willing to take a research year for it, which we'll get into? And my gut reaction was hell no. So I was like, okay, maybe you don't really like, or you don't love ortho. You really, 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 really like it, but you don't love it. And then the other route was, what if you could just soap in the Gen Surge? And my initial gut reaction again was absolutely just no, 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 no. And I think that's oddly common for a lot of people that are like orthopedics, ENT, ophtho, or something, where it's like, I want to do that, but not Gen Surge, which to all my Gen Surge folks out there, you take that as you will. I'm not gonna dig deeper into that. Okay, so that's the soap. That's option one. Option two, research here. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I relate to what you're saying, which is that for me, the option of a research year and reapplying an ENT? Absolutely not. That was not on the table. So if there had not been ENT slots or something else that I could see myself doing to scramble into, I would have been prepared to do your door number 3, which was get the fuck out of medicine. Start in industry. I would rather have started over in a different industry than double down on and go deeper into give up more of my life for my ENT application.
So that actually leads me right into my next question, which is like what life situations or personal priorities should sway you towards or away from each of those options? Start from the top again. Soap. What should sway you towards doing that? You already mentioned a few. Like, are there still spots of your desired specialty left?
Exactly. I mean, I think that in my case, it would have been insane not to soap because I was able to just still get into what my initial application and all my prep was for. So I think, but that's very interesting because that's so variable year to year. It had planned for that. As doctors, I think we love, like, I love timetables, I love planning.
Oh,
I have a
everyone's
what?
type A here. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So it's hard because when you're now the rug's pulled out from under you, you have to see where the chips fell in terms of soap options. So you look at the soap options. Um, I do think that I know many people who are specialty surgeons who did soap into the gen surg year. Like they knew that they wanted to do ENT, plastics, ortho, something like that, but they took the gen surg year for 1 year and then reapplied. And so there are people where I do think it's just about where you're at in life, how much flexibility you have, and how committed you are to ENT. I think that it says a lot that I was prepared to walk away, and there's not a scenario where I would have given up another year of research of life to do it. I think that people who have a lot of flexibility and they know this whole experience brings out within them that level of commitment, then a research year makes sense. Like if your ultimate goal in life is to become an ENT, makes perfect sense. The number 3 option, people who have that flexibility, like say that they aren't under pressure to repay debt, they don't have a family to provide for, then moving industries is doable. And I will say that like I approached all of this like I had a boyfriend at the time, my now husband. Um He was very supportive of whatever I wanted to do. I could have come back and said, "It is a gen surge prelim year. It's medicine. It's neurology now." Like, or I could have said, "I'm leading medicine." Um, and I think I had the support to move any kind of way with that.
So I think that's a big point to bring up too, is having a very close support system. That makes a huge difference. And it's something that I realized throughout medical school, like people coming into medical school with long-term partners or they're married or something, like their approach to showing up every day was entirely different and I would argue more free than probably everyone else going through it single. Just because they know like if all of this like goes up in flames, I have a priority at home to care for and be a part. Like I have somebody else that I want to be in my life. Whereas like a lot of people, I'm thinking of multiple examples in my head. Close friends of just like, well, there's nobody here in my life, so I guess like I can just give all of myself to this path because like I have nobody else to give it to. Like that's also like the
Get a
other
friend.
end of this. Yeah, please, like do anything.
Spend more time on your friendships. Like, but I can definitely relate to that. I've been there, and I think that I was that person in my earlier 20s, like not putting a lot of time and effort towards friendships, not knowing to cherish those, didn't have any pets. My whole life was this game.
Sure. So I would say, and this is entirely perspective, if like you didn't have that kind of support, would you still have thought about just straight leaving medicine? Well,
I think that what was really important about the support and the person that I was becoming even then is that my significant other was not in medicine. So I was starting to just see that there was a different way to live. I had been on the conveyor belt of medicine for so long since I was a biochem major at Notre Dame that, like, I think that for me, not leaving medicine at that time was a lack of creativity. Also, the fact that the soap thing matched up. I just want to link this to even like a teaser of what my whole residency experience was like. Because, of course, when it was a really malignant work environment and pretty abusive, I just always thought life's too short. Like, there's got to be more than this. I don't want to show up to the hospital every day and get beaten up. But it was a lack of bravery and creativity that kept me there.
I see.
And if I didn't have a lot of relationships I was building up outside of the hospital, I don't think I ever would have gotten the creativity myself, like kind of a rigid thinker, very much like I got put on a path, I can put blinders on and see the path through.
Mm.
Very much that type of person, as so many of us are. You could just give me any path, and like if that's the assignment, I could kill any assignment. I'm like an assignments machines. I'll get it done in a timely fashion and I'll get it done right, but at no point in bringing up young people like that do we ask them like, "Oh, do you want this assignment? Is this the right assignment for you?"
I do want to take a moment because I know we like talked about kind of the awfulness of the match. Those three options when you don't match, whether you soap, whether you take a research year, or believe it or not, whether or not you just decide to walk away, all are valid and great options for you based on your priorities and your really lifestyle. And as much as a lot of society will think target shame towards those decisions, just know that again, they're all valid decisions and normal career decisions that anybody outside of medicine would make.
I think that like one thing that helped put this in perspective for me is that, when I didn't match, I felt betrayed by the system. I felt like I did everything right, quote unquote. I mean, like, the publications, the AOA, the aways. So there's a betrayal element, but then also the humiliation. And I really felt like that, especially because I was a person who really like led with ego. That was like what almost killed me about it. And I would ask my now husband, then boyfriend all the time, like, this is so embarrassing. Will you see me the same? And he was like, I don't even care a little bit. Like, I don't even know about the match. The match is not a thing, right? Like, I truly do not think it changed how he viewed me. And I would be like, do you think your family won't respect me now? Again, they have no idea what the match is. My family feels the exact same about you. And I'd be like, what about your friends? And kind of same thing. And, I think that that helped because, again, it put in perspective, like, at the end of the day, I asked him all of those same questions when I was halfway through training in residency and I decided not to do a fellowship. That was really hard for me to let go of, for me to like leave academia, to become a general ENT, to not do a fellowship. I asked the exact same question, well, what will your friends and family think of me? He was like, they'll think you're a surgeon. I mean, like at that point,
Mhm.
I'm comparing a general ENT surgeon to like a rhinologist or an otologist, right? And it's crazy because we get in this echo chamber of medicine to where we're like, that's embarrassing. It's embarrassing to be a general ENT who's not fellowship trained. And these are all lies that like the system tells us and that we don't have to accept or perpetuate. So I just say all of that because of course like for some of us friends and family will be in medicine too, but there's really diminishing returns on like trying to look for the approval of the couple hundred subspecialists who maybe are looking down on you for your choices or for the outcomes in your career.
Well, also what keeps me grounded as well too, and I think anybody also asking themselves those same questions is who are you really like seeking approval from? Is it like these high academia people, or is it the patients who you're actually caring for, you're being there for? And at least me, I absolutely desire to go into pediatrics. I want to do pediatric anesthesia, and I still have this conversation with my parents too of when kind of almost in that similar right of when I switched out of orthopedics into anesthesia, a lot of my parents were like, you did all this hard work. You studied your butt off to basically be a nobody. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? It's like, no one's going to ask for your referral. They aren't going to go, oh, Dr. Wynn saved your life. Or he is the surgeon that like saved my son or something like that. They aren't going to remember your name. They're going to know you. I'm like, people, even like entirely not in a medical context, over years, they will forget your name, but they will never forget how you made them feel. And I think that's so true, especially within pediatrics too, of, with the way you approach the pre-op area and bring the child back to the operating room, and then how you care for the family as a unit and assure them that like we are going to take care of your little one, because it's scary as a parent to be like, my little baby's going behind those cold, dark doors, and some people in mass are going to cut them open. If you can give them that reassurance that, hey, I'm going to bring your loved one safe and as pain-free as possible back to you, and make them laugh and joyful on the way back, I don't care if they remember Dr. Wynn was the person who did that. They're just going to know that like during that procedure, I felt the most secure knowing that my child was in good hands. It's enough for me. I don't care if like the chair knows that I did that. I don't care if honestly like my co-residents, co-fellows, attendings know that that was the impact I had in that family's life. But I know, and that's enough. And I think that should be enough for a lot of people, especially in medicine.
I love that. I think that that's very beautiful. It is countercultural in more of the rat race of academia. You know, the people who are in the rat race and the people who are gunning for the PD to climb up to the chair positions, that is not the rhetoric that is going on
Oh yeah.
behind those closed doors.
And they will tell me that's not enough. They will tell me that you have to do more. You have to have notoriety. Why aren't you going to more conferences or anything? And I said, okay. And that's a personal decision for myself and where I want to take my career. And if you're thinking the same, that's okay. No need to carry on the shame rhetoric.
Exactly. And I think that there is something like when I talk a lot about my values and what I respect and look for in my 30s versus my 20s. Like 10 years ago, when I was in my early 20s, and you share something like that that's so authentic and moving to me now, I would have been like, okay, he doesn't get it. More room for me at the conferences and like on the first authorships, like more room for me, right? But now, the only thing that I think when I hear that is that it takes a lot of confidence and self actualization to be a person who's willing to be countercultural to academia like that, because academia is the Goliath, right? And we're David.
All right. And we just need more people to speak up on that. And we'll little by little chip away at the shame that kind of pervades our field, um, one step at a time. So as we wrap up, I think that's a great note to kind of make sure that this is it's a very intense season 3, episode 1. But it really is. I want to emphasize that this is a story of encouragement and empowerment, not of disappointment. Um, just as you did not let your story end with the match, I think everybody who also does not match your story is not over either. So I do want to wrap up with, for you, what is your word of encouragement to either the medical student who just transitioned to an MS4 and are like, oh God, it's coming. I'm counting down the days of this fateful decision. And then also for those who just really a few weeks afterwards are kind of mentally preparing, I just soaped, or I'm just about to start a research year, or I just left medicine. How do I carry on?
Yes, I think that the reframes are key. because these things happen that we have no control over. We can be the best prepared student, the best prepared trainee. Things are going to happen that are out of our control, and you can rewrite your story as many times as you need to. I actually think that there's a lot of lessons we can take from other industries and, like non-medical professionals where throughout their 20s, there is time for exploration, for play, for pivoting, for making adjustments as they arise. And I think that the more that we can introduce those in medicine and surgery, the better that we'll be as a workforce.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that that is all. Wrap on the first episode of the new season. Thank you so much, May, for coming on the channel and the podcast. It's the start of a wonderful journey with Hippocratic Collective. And I look forward to many, many more episodes and a lot more collaboration with this wonderful organization.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Andy. It is a privilege to have a legend here today in the studio.
Oh my gosh, legend. You and Tommy just like put me. You guys talk too highly of me. It's hard. It's hard to take compliments. But that is it. Until next time, thank you so much for watching.